Even though I've seen on bigger projects still this rehearsal time happens, but to me it's more like I'd be happy if my actor can, spend a few hours just to talk about character, just to talk about themselves, just to talk to me so we get to know each other before we meet on set. And I don't rehearse performance. I feel like if you cast the person right, then you should keep this magic up until you're rolling, and then you see this miracle. It is really cool. That's the feeling I love the most, probably, when you see this first performance and it's brilliant and it's magic.
Hi, everyone. This is Cinematography for Actors podcast. I'm Haley Royal. That's Indiana Underhill. And today we have a very important guest, a wonderful friend of ours, and incredible talent, director Ira Storozhenko. We have a lot to talk about, so we are going to get right into it.
Somebody.
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Show us, Cindy. Show us.
Okay, back to it. Ira.
Yeah.
Russia.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
Differences in the film industry?
Yeah.
What are they?
Okay.
You were like a first AD.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was directing too back in Russia, but I was also working as first AD sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a lot.
Yeah.
Basically, I got into film industry when I was 16. And, through 16 to 21, 22, I've done, I think I've done everything.
Yeah.
I did. I was a clap girl.
Yes.
Take one scene for take one. Yeah, and I was editing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up working as an editor for TV. Then when I would miss set, I would just go and do whatever. So I actually never worked as a PA.
Nice.
That's very interesting.
Wow.
I was looking back at my experience, and because normally, not normally, but there's an old story how from PA you become then producer or whatever.
Regular progression.
Yeah, but I was like, I don't think I ever worked as a PA. I mean, I did a lot of shit on set and cleaning and stuff like that, but I never actually PA'd. But yes, I did work as first AD, and I did edit a lot. And when you really go, I think it all helps, because when you really go into production and then you work in post-production, you can see that from different sides, and you understand why certain things that you don't think are very important on set ended up being crucial, because, you know what I mean, all these numbers and little letters, because it really, one of my jobs as an editor was to do the documentary TV show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they would bring me hard drives being, hey, Ira, it's just there's 54 hours here, we need 24 minutes from that. So I would end up watching everything and then thinking how you can build the story out of that, and then building the story. And
which is all teaching you how to be a better director, because you know what you need to get.
Oh, yeah, 100%, especially when you work, with a crappy documentary material, which is not that was fun for me back then. Especially, I was grateful because that studio, they were working for one of the, big TV channels, but they didn't care when do you work. So I would get there at night for multiple reasons. First of all, there is no one in there, so I can really sit and concentrate. Second of all, there is no one in there, so I can edit and smoke in the building.
Yes.
And the third reason, I was actually studying back then, so I would have to wake up in the morning and go to classes. And but the studio was very close to my university. So I had a cleaning lady who would come at 6 a.m. and she would wake me up because I'd be sleeping on a sofa and waiting until expert is done. She'd be like, "Oh my God, you're working so hard. I can't believe it." I'm like, yeah. Well, yeah, that was a fun ride. I was basically working there for money. And at the other time, I started prepping for that masterpiece short. That was interesting because I felt like I have to quit the job.
Yeah.
But also I cannot be an asshole towards them because it was the end of the season and I needed just to bring 2 more series. And I also knew that I'm the only one who has been there for a while. So it would be nearly impossible to find someone else and bring them up to the speed because I know all the material and I know the characters, I know our people who are participating in the shot, like in the shoots and et cetera, et cetera. But that was challenging to combine that.
What was the casting like for Masterpiece?
Oh my God, you're like really asking good questions.
Yeah.
So
because they had to have a very specific look.
yes. So basically, I was very open about that. I'm looking for the plus size actors or models, and like, no way. Everyone is so like literally like so slim and skinny. So I ended up going really crazy because they were like, or they wouldn't be professional actors. By professional, I mean I am coming from documentary experience, so I don't require actors necessarily have an experience. In fact, I like working with, young actors, beginners, not necessarily young, they could be, they could be, I don't know, like 50 or something, but young in a way of their, career. Because I feel that sometimes from real people, you can get actually a lot more because they come and they bring their own experience.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, everyone whom I was casting, they were either just it was just not a good fit for the role. Like everyone, I mean, whom I knew from the industry. And I, at a certain point, I went crazy. I read an article about, a little town in Russia that has ballet only for plus size women.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I remember that I was so desperate, man. I was like, oh my God, I need to find this the only one person. So I was pretty quick on making decisions. I left my classes, I booked a ticket, and I went from my university straight to the airport. I called my mom and I said like, well, I don't think I'm coming back for dinner. And I flew to that little city, and it was insane because it was very spontaneous. They actually let me in because, my school has name, and they knew my teacher, and they were like, oh, this is like really great. Yeah, you can just observe our class. And I ended up looking at these young ladies. They were amazing. And actually, I recorded auditions right after their class just on my phone, with probably 3 or 4 of them. And I kept thinking, that was just a wild, interesting experience. I was very happy. And then I was going to the hotel, hostel I booked. And by the time I arrived to the hostel, it was already dark. And I see that there is no hostel. Like map says it is, but there is like a little, whatever sign of the hostel. So I open the door, and what I see is like 10 maybe men who are drinking in there. Like it's not, it was not a hostel. But the thing is, I was 20. I'm alone in a whatever small city, which is famous by the giant prison that is there. So I'm like, and all these men, they're drinking, and they look at me like zombies, and they just start slowly walking towards me. I understand they're wasted, and that's the scariest part.
Oh my
so
God.
yeah, and I started running away, and then as I am fastly walking away from this hostel, I see another woman who also walks, and I decide to team up with her because I'm thinking, okay, we're 2 ladies, it's a dark, and it's a weird place to be, especially alone. And we walked together, but then I realized that this lady, she's also weird. She kept trying to lure me to whatever party. She kept asking where I'm from and what kind of phone I have.
To traffic you.
Yes, and the weirdest part was that she would stumble. She couldn't walk properly. She would stumble a little. So at a certain point, she took me to whatever, it was a bazaar or, some really weird place, because I was just looking for a place with more people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to get coffee. It's really, it's getting late. I need to get coffee. So we went to this bazaar. It literally, it looks like in the movies. They're just very little, I don't know, tents, and people are selling some weird stuff, and she knows everyone in there. So it was really insane, and it's dark. It's it's probably 6 p.m., but it's already dark, and it's winter, so it's cold as F. And once she's grabbing her coffee, I just ran. I ran away, and I kept running. as much as I could, because it's also, very slippery because of the ice and snow and stuff like that. And at a certain point, I remember that I just walk on the street and I don't know what to do. I'm thinking I probably just should go to airport and I don't know, like spend maybe 5 hours there because I don't feel safe at all. And then somebody pushed me in the back and I turned, but I ran. And that woman, she stumbled, but that was her. And she goes like, "You're not a true friend. Like, why are you running away from me? My friends are on the way." And it was like, for the sake of casting, that's what I did.
That's insane.
So I ended up escaping all of this story. Like, I can go for an hour talking about how exactly, but I feel like, we're just wasting time. But I think that was probably the wildest move I did in order to find the talent for the movie. Mm-hmm. And I found one, obviously not in that city. And, unfortunately, because otherwise it would have been just a perfect story of success through the struggle. But we found a girl with whom I ended up being in very good relationships. She was not an actor. Okay. That was very interesting to work with her. She was around my age back then. She was a model. But I think she got overwhelmed when she saw the production and the quality, like she got scared. She approached me after day one and she goes like, "Ira, I really didn't, when you said we're going to do like, it's going to be a shooting process, I didn't think about, all this like trucks and chairs and like monitors and everyone is looking at me and I had to work with her more like on a human being level just to calm her down and being, hey, this is actually great. Don't feel overwhelmed. All these people here, they're here for you." And then became a moment when she felt like a star and she became needy and she was looking for more attention.
Oh my God.
So I had to tune it a little bit down, being, hey, yes, we're here for you, but you're part of the movie. And you know how like I was taught never to show actors work in progress, but I broke that rule because I wanted to show her how it's getting all together, so she'd realize that, if she would continue acting like an asshole, she's going to hurt the movie. And the movie was actually coming very well altogether. So I showed her some of the result and it actually helped. And
that's good.
She watched herself and she goes, she was paired with a professional actor. And she goes like, "Oh my God, he's so much better." And I'm like, I don't want you to think about that, but I want you to work harder. And we ended up on a great note. Yeah.
So working with actors and non-actors, how does your style change? How do you get them to adapt to each other or you to adapt to them when they're in a scene together and things like that?
I honestly do very little to, if I pair, I like pairing non-actors with actors more. Like I would say I'd prefer that compared to non-actor and non-actor.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when non-actor is paired with actor, they are learning and they're also supported by the authentic performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's nothing that they would feel like, oh, it still feels like a game, because actor, would get so much emotions out, like so many emotions out, then non-actor would kind of, I don't know, get under it and adjust. I think I don't do anything to like pair them, or I don't do any like conversations, but separately I would run my conversations differently, because with an actor we can talk a little bit maybe about the character, or sometimes that goes very interesting. Some actors actually raise very smart questions about obstacles, about conflicts, about like their inner, deeper thoughts and why and how they would do certain things. I don't expect that from non-actor, because they wouldn't, they don't necessarily know all the theory and all, moments that can help. I would probably just be digging deeper to their experience, being, hey,
the human experience.
It would be like it would be the game of as if you're 17 and you hear your parents are yelling at each other. So now in order to do that, before we would go on set, I would become a friend. I would try to know, and I would be very honest and open. That actually came from documentary, because in documentary experience, when you're filming people, nobody like wants to cry or break down, but you actually corruptedly need this emotion.
Yes.
So there is I call it game of trust. If I want people to share something for me, to altogether to bring it to emotional state that is necessary, I would share something about myself. So that way,
It's like a give and take.
yeah, it is a give and take. It gets very personal though, and probably because of that I stay friends with all the actors with whom I work, because at certain point you get so vulnerable that it becomes, I'd say, emotionally dangerous, you know what I mean? So but it's very interesting, and I think it really helps later on for me to talk to them, especially with non-actors, being, hey, remember, like, we were talking about this, or like, remember you mentioned that moment of your life, so this scene is very close to it.
Wow.
And that helps them to get into emotional space they need to be in. Yeah.
So do you like working with, you talked a little bit about this, but with the actor side, trained actors, so do you prefer to work with actors that bring up conflict and obstacle, and like, what's that ideal conversation look like in prep versus on set?
I surprisingly, I am not a rehearsal person.
Okay.
So prep goes very little.
It's mostly with me, with your DP and your PD.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's with your heads of department.
Yes. For the technical part, yes. And I actually thought always, because, in Russia, the difference is that what I've noticed by my eyes, Russian directors love to rehearse. They can actually rehearse through an entire movie with their actors. And I was very much like that. Because in Russia, theatrical culture used to be giant. I mean, it's still pretty good with, all the independent, independent directors for theater. Actors not necessarily are divided. And typically, all of them have theatrical background, because they start from universities, like they start from schools, theatrical schools that are well known for, like, theater. So there is no per se like a strict line between theater and film for actors. And that is why, like, I would say it's very different here. So when I was coming here, I thought, oh, yeah, I'm probably going to be rehearsing. And A, if I broke me down completely, they were like, Kyrie, you don't need it, A. And B, you have to learn how to live without it, because Hollywood industry is so fast that not necessarily you have time to direct, especially if you want to work with bigger actors. They're not going to waste their time to rehearse, like, with capital R.
Yeah.
They know what they do, right? Even though I've seen on bigger projects still this rehearsal time happens, but to me it's more like I'd be happy if my actor can spend a few hours just to talk about character, just to talk about themselves, just to talk to me, so we get to know each other before we meet on set. And I don't rehearse performance. I feel like if you cast the person right, then you should keep this magic up until you're rolling, and then you see this miracle. It is really cool. That's the feeling I love the most, probably, when you see this first performance and it's brilliant and it's magic.
This is why I love Ira, because she is such an emotional person, but also director in a very beautiful way. She's very technical when it comes to blocking and things, but then also allows her DPs to really flourish underneath that blocking of, like, I know I want the lighting to look like this, but do what you need to do in order to get it there, Haley, how do you feel about the whole rehearsal situation? Are you coming, because you're coming from theater?
Yeah, I do come from theater. I would say that the longer I'm here and the more work I do in film, the more I appreciate a rehearsal period. When I first started working in film, I was like, no, I want to show up on the day and I want it to be magic. Like, I just want it to happen. But I think that it's rare. It's so rare that it really is like a nice little gift, like a present that you get if you get some rehearsal time. But you're right, there isn't a lot of time, so a lot of the rehearsal that an actor has to do is on their own at home.
I would say there is a difference, although if we're talking, I was mostly talking about physically simple scenes.
Yeah.
Because if it's a stunt or a dance or anything that requires, like physical performance that has to be good, that's 100%
for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
But what would it look like? I mean, how would, like, let me put you guys in together, right?
Yeah.
Like director and actor. So you have a film coming up, the talk of, like, prep is happening. I'm there, like, we're shooting. Let's make a movie together, guys. But what would you, if Haley was the type of actor that would be like, I really like rehearsals, what do you need me to do? Because you like obviously know how to prep on your own, like you know what to do, but what would you give actors who aren't working with a director that has time for rehearsals or wants rehearsals because they want them to show up? What would you tell them?
Oh yeah, I would actually ask you, Haley. Yeah, let's play it off.
Yeah.
Do it.
So you come to me and you go like, "Hi, I want to rehearse."
Yeah.
Right. And I would start, if I do think that we need a rehearsal, then we'll just go for it and we'll talk. But let's say I don't think we need one rehearsal. So I would ask you, are there any particular moments you don't feel comfortable or you want to talk about or you want to rehearse? And if so, why? So I would hear, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
you'd like hear me out.
yeah, I would hear you out and I would see if we need, maybe you don't feel emotionally comfortable, not in an abusive way, but just maybe a little bit scared or overly excited to work with whatever partner you have. Then yes, of course, well, if we are permitted and allowed, I would bring that actor and not necessarily would go through the scene. Maybe we'll just talk through it. Maybe we would read through it. You know what I mean? But especially if that happens, let's say we have 2 weeks before production. Oh yeah, we can rehearse. Because then, it's so far away. It's not like on a day or the day before.
Yeah.
But one thing, what I would encourage you not to do is if you see that there is a specific way of your performance that I liked, to try mechanically to remember it. Because, and I've seen actors, especially, when they are beginning, they do that. But the beauty is you have to trust your gut and it's okay to do it differently. I think the most important thing is to keep emotions alive.
Preserving it.
Yeah. I've seen really good German actors. They're also, same theatrical and for film. One of them, she was doing every take differently, but it was emotionally overwhelming. But I would say for Hollywood, probably you need to adjust and learn how to do it similarly, but still keep your emotions fresh. But, again, if we're talking about indie movies, or a bigger budget production where director is one of the main point people and they can decide, it all becomes towards like how much they can allow it. You know what I mean? There's some directors, they go like, oh no, I need you to do it like right like you did it in the previous shot because of the continuity. I'll probably be fuck continuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's so many mistakes when you're watching movies. We don't notice them because we're looking at the actor's eyes and we're watching performance.
Hopefully that sells more, that you're not even noticing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you how many mistakes I noticed in my own movies from like after probably I was watching it with my editor for 100th time. And we both would never see it before because we would never look, at the level corner of the screen, like seeing that something is off in there because you would always concentrate on performance. Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, performance and story, those are the most crucial elements of the movie. You can have zero money. You can film on the phone. You can do whatever you want. But as long as you have great story and amazing performance, it's gonna work.
Yeah.
And there is like some good example of that, which I will mention later on because I need to remember properly.
Speaking of not time for rehearsal time in Hollywood, which is true. Apparently, the reason Shia LaBeouf left Don't Worry, Darling is because they didn't have any rehearsal time.
Oh.
And he didn't. I know there's a lot of drama, but that's what he said to Variety. It's because there wasn't rehearsal.
I want to dive into the specifics of exercises because I find it interesting. And, as a DP, I'm always busy on set. I'm never witnessing this stuff. It's always like director goes in with another actor and then suddenly you're like, yeah, we're ready. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened over there. You're ready. But Ira, what kind of exercises do you like to use to either give to an actor to rehearse on their own with or on set? What kind of stuff do you want to talk about? Because I find this stuff interesting.
Yeah, I would say particular exercises always come from the story.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If I would be doing the movie about a guy who lives on a boat, I'd probably be like, hey, you want to just go and watch how people live on a boat and just talk about it? Like, let's rent a boat for like a week or something so we can just, you know what I mean? I like those things as much as I like crazy casting, you know, that you can just go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But on set, it depends. So, you know, if I can see, for example, if I'm working with a little bit more experienced actors that are very suggestive, there might be 0 exercises. But sometimes, especially when you work with beginners, you need people to warm up, and anything would work.
So yeah, what's something you like to do?
You know, push-ups sometimes.
Fun.
Jumping, especially if I need, you know, just collectively. Like I remember that there was one scene and I couldn't crack through it, and I know like everyone was tired and, you know, we would stop every time because of the technical problems. So I had 10 young, beautiful ladies, and we were all jumping right before I would call action, so they can like get, you know, into the mood of the
adrenaline and energy, breath,
yes, push-ups sometimes, as I said, but you know, to the limit. And if I see that the actor don't feel comfortable doing that and it feels awkward, I just do it with them. You know what I mean? There is nothing. I mean, I'm always to, you know, do together. Nothing in particular other than physical, you know, refreshment, but I would say talking to actors is very important. And I've seen some directors missing it, but to me, it is essential that after I call cut, I'm gonna go and talk to my actors first. Camera, you know, my DP, everyone else, they can wait, and of course we're gonna chat afterwards. But actors are like, they're so vulnerable.
That is so essential. Because a lot of people miss that mark where they're like, legitimately, directors will just go talk to their DP, and the actors sat there waiting, and your camera operator and them are making eye contact, and your camera operator is like, don't ask me.
I don't know. Well, honestly, I feel like I've heard that from someone, that directors are divided for 3 types. They're like type of commercial directors. They treat actors like a prop. So those would be concerned, and they would talk to DP first, and they would like, you know, make sure that the light is perfect, picture is brilliant, and yada yada yada. And then they would bring an actor. Actually, actor shared that with me. He goes like, you know, to my experience, they would bring actor. They would like, a little bit step to your left, just tiny bit back, a little bit to your right. You know what I mean? So they would. It's not good or bad. It's just like
different,
like this, right? And then they wouldn't like really care about performance, or they would guide the performance in a way like, could you like open your eyes a little bit? You know what I mean? So they would be very technical about physical expression. And the art directors, which I do think I'm one of those, that are very much about performance only. Like they don't give, you know, much, not much attention. Of course, it's all prepped before, but on set they concentrate mostly on the actors in their performance, getting loose on other departments like production, design, and camera. And there is a third type, which is a balance. Probably that comes with experience, you know.
Because you learn how to balance it.
Yeah, you do learn how to balance it. But to me, talking to the actor right after they finish the take, that's essential. Even if I don't have any notes and there is something technical what happened, you know, we lost focus or whatever it is, I'd come to my actor and be like, that was perfect. Let's just repeat it. We just need one more for camera. You know,
and I've seen that happen on set, and it works really well because Ira also, in addition to working with the most difficult group of actors, which are children, she also works with ensembles a lot of the time. So
you really love to make things difficult for yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I've worked with her when we've had ensemble casts. I've also seen one of her thesis films that worked with an ensemble cast and who were teenagers or playing teenagers.
Yeah.
And it is such a unique thing because it's like, how do you communicate to a group of actors at the same time to all like be like, we're good? And I think that the answer is go first to them, because then you can really, they all hone in on you being like, oh, she's about to get to me, you know what I mean? And then they have the moment to like talk while you're talking to me or talking to someone else, you know?
Yeah.
So that's great.
And the other thing I like doing with actors, well, the collective talk could happen if I'm like, that was great, but note giving session, I would go very like quietly towards everyone, because sometimes I set up little tricks for actors. Like, for example, if we pretend right now that you both are actors, right? So I would talk to Indiana and I would be like, hey, when Haley enters the room, you're pissed at her and you don't want to talk. but you don't know about it, right, Haley? And then I would come to you and I'd be like, hey, so when Indiana comes, you want to leave, but you need from her like $100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like things like that to set it up.
Yeah.
Especially if we're talking about not the main characters, but like, let's say supporting characters. When you're doing a movie about family, sometimes those little details, they slip away, and actors, they know that they're not leads. So they're not going to come to you and bother you with these questions, but it's hell of a thing good to give them something to play with because it brings them back to life.
Yeah.
And then I would be watching how dynamic changes. So I would basically try to do everything more complicated within the scene.
Yes.
So to see how they can play with each other. So, you know,
Great.
very much like that comes from the theatrical experience, because when I was studying in Russia, we had a simple exercise on the stage. I was studying acting too, and we had an exercise to enter to stay or to enter to leave. That means that would be etudes. So it's improvisation with two people. I would have my partner, and then that was like just a general improv. And the dynamic would be created, for example, to come to leave. That means one of the simplest things, I'm coming back home and I'm leaving my boyfriend and I am here to pack my suitcase. And they would play off of it because they wouldn't want me to go. So it was, you know, the dynamic to try to make the person to stay in the room or to try to leave, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is actually very interesting because that creates conflicts and obstacles for your performance. So I am thinking about those moments even when I work, you know, on the script. I'm thinking, hey, what do they need in this scene? Like how the dynamic works in the scene to make it, you know, suitable for actors, to make it interesting to perform, to make it, you know, creatively like a place where they can progress and they can really achieve something with their performance.
I want to get your opinion on something because Haley worked on something where one of the directors, like, I want you to tell it, but one of the directors pulled you in and was like, this is your moment.
Oh.
It's so funny.
Do that.
Well, I was just going to say, actually, I'll tell this story as well. It's such a gift when you get a director who also is kind of an acting coach, which sounds like what you do, because when you're on set, like, you forget those little things that you learned in acting school of like creating conflict. So just to be like, you don't want to stay here, like, that's so great. And this director was the exact opposite.
Okay.
Gave nothing, absolutely nothing, but pulled me aside. I was about to do, you know, I had to cry, which is already difficult for me. He pulled me in and he was like, okay, this is your Oscar moment.
Oh my God.
Lots of like a lot of tears. And that's all. Like, there was no reminding of how important this scene was. We didn't talk about emotionally what. So I just got in there and was like, okay, this has to be the messiest, ugliest cry I've ever
Just
done.
cry and cute, cry and cute.
And that's all I'm thinking about. And I'm thinking about him being like, not crying enough. You know, like, that's
oh my God. I feel like this director right now is listening to this podcast and being shit. Is she talking about me?
Well, at least they learn from
My
that,
wife.
hopefully.
Was it that bad?
They were a very young, like, very new student.
Okay.
Brand new.
Okay.
It was, you know, it was.
But for like a
definitely
short to be like,
practice.
this is your Oscar moment. And
No,
you're
this
like,
is-
just no, that's just like not a thing.
Also, just like very silly. Like, the rest of the short is like so cute and silly, and then there's this one moment where it's like you need to be pulling your hair
Look,
out.
but
Like,
honestly, like, actors sometimes fight back. Like, for example, you know, if I want to talk to an actor, but it's an important emotional scene, like, some of them, they're a little bit more experienced. They would be like, give me a second
I
there.
got it.
Like, just give me a second. You know what I mean? So I would, as a director, I'd be like, oh, okay, so we're stepping into this vulnerable prep space. I'm probably not going to bother this person unless there is really something important, you know, technically what I need to add. Speaking of these shitty moments, I did one myself. I am guilty. I've
my God.
learned a lot from that. So yeah, that was my first thesis. I was working with the girl, and I love her till death, Risa Alexander.
Yeah.
She was 16, and she was such an amazing. She was she was just beginning, but honestly, it felt like she's been an actress for a long time. But yeah, it felt like like she was a lot more experienced than I was. I was freaking out constantly. Every day I would come on set, I was nearly to puke. I was so nervous. I was, of course, like hiding it from everyone.
She
and
was
being
great
so
at
nice.
masking it. Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, it was dying inside. And at certain point, we had this moment that was a climax of the movie when she walks on the stage per, the story, and she has to perform in front of her classmates that all hate her.
Yeah.
And that's the moment of like, not crying, but getting through that, fighting with your, like, inside yourself.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. My first ED comes to me and goes like, we're not gonna overtime minor. And I'm like, nobody's talking about overtiming her. He goes like, yeah, so Ira, you have only 20 minutes. And I'm talking to my DP and she goes like, yeah, I need 40 to reset. And I'm freaking out. So somehow Sarah, my DP, she cuts down her reset time, of course, but it wins us one take of the climactic moment. So stupid Ira, stupid me, I run to the actress and I'm freaking out. I'm about to cry. Because if we don't get this moment today, we don't get it any other day. We don't have other days there. And if we don't get it, we don't have a movie. So I come to my actress and I tell her how it is. I go like, I don't know what to tell you. I'll be very honest with you. I'm about to cry. I don't know what to suggest to you. I just know if we don't get it, we don't have a movie. And she looks back at me and she goes, I got it, Ira. Don't worry, I got it. She walks on the stage and she pulls an amazing performance from one take. Yes, that was, I don't know why did I do that?
I'm getting emotional too.
After that,
we're all crying here.
Yeah, I'm crying myself because she was perfect. But I look back at this day every time, in the morning if I go on set, I'm like, never fucking do this again, Ira. Never ever.
Never put
Yeah,
someone in the position.
yeah. Never.
Of saving your film. Yeah.
No, but I'm thinking how strong was she, because she was 16. That was her first film, and director storms to her being, everything is on fire. I don't know what to do. Just go there.
Yeah.
That was, again, before the moment when, if not she cried, maybe she doesn't cry, maybe she does. I don't know, but it was a very important emotional moment. So yeah, I learned from that. I put it in my, black book where I list everything what I shouldn't do and all the people with whom I would never work again.
Ooh.
I have that. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the black book?
Yeah, wow.
Blacklisted. That's but basically, so I am a very forgiving person, and
are you? Are you really though? Creatively, like, or professionally, like personally, like that's the funniest shit I've heard all day. I love you. You're one of my closest friends, but are you forgiving? I'm not sure.
I
used to be.
I have a book where I write down all my grudges. I'm very forgiving.
I love it. I love you, Ira. Okay.
So, anyways, now I live by the mantra that people don't change, and
I'm very forgiving now.
No, yeah.
Great. Love that.
So sorry, I have to. Oof, this is funny. So the blacklist for me, it doesn't mean that I would never talk to these people again. It just simply means that I would be actually very nice to them.
Yes. But
I don't want to work with them again, and there is a reason for that. And see, Indiana, this is actually true. This book exists because, I remember, I'm not going to call names,
No.
But I worked with particular person twice. I'm not going to even say the department. Make it more and more intriguing.
Yeah.
And
I think I know who it is too. So.
And the first time I've seen some red flags coming up, some attitude I wouldn't appreciate or whatever. But then, I thought, well, people learn, they change, they become better. We work together second time. And that was an emotional disaster for me because I had to invest so much in order to finish the project. Like, I had to babysit this person. I had to talk them, into doing something that actually they had to do. So that was a nightmare. And after, I was emotionally exhausted. Like, me and other people in the team that worked with me and were going through the process, we were done. So after that moment, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to write these names, just a reminder for myself that maybe in a year, maybe in 3 years, if we get to work together again, but I would have other options, I'd probably go with someone else.
Yeah,
Just-
that makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
it's like when you get out of a relationship and all you remember are the good moments. It's like kind of because you've had time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but it's like, why would I want to put myself back into that toxic mentality? Because I know that stuff's going to come out when stuff gets stressful.
Yeah, I think that's very right. We're talking about toxicity
Yeah.
because it's not, you can master your craft, and I do believe that actually people learn, and sometimes, you know, you go through difficult situations. You always go through difficult situations.
Yes.
Movies are always drama. You always like end up, you know, getting into, there's no set where everything would be smooth and perfect from very beginning to the
Yes.
very end. No.
Mhm.
So I feel like with many people that we work, yeah, you get at the point when you're ready to, I don't know, eat their hat, or they're ready to punch you, obviously, without, you know, nobody ever does
No
it.
physical
Not
altercation.
physical, yeah, but emotionally you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then you get over it. Next
Yeah.
day you solve, you put down fires, you solved all the issues, and then the next day you meet this person, you go like, hey, hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, I
Yesterday was
know.
wild, right?
know.
That's it. But if people are toxic, and toxicity rarely goes away, they will start withholding that moment, and some, you know what I mean? So I'm not withholding. Set is very intimate,
Yes.
very close environment where people work for 12, 14 hours all together. It's very tough. Of course, emotionally, it will escalate at a certain point, but you cannot think about it every other day. And like, the more you're, you know, making a big deal out of it, because it's all working situations. So yeah, this
Yeah. Reflection is like one of the most important things within our creative field, because we choose to be in this industry because we're passionate about it, but we also want to have fun and make movies and make art. And the best way of doing that, and Haley and I always talk about this, I feel like on every episode and in our classes, is creating a safe space. And how can your space as a director, as a DP, as an actor be safe when you have toxicity around you? Like, that person might be a perfect working partner for someone else.
Yeah,
but it just might not be your style.
I was about to say that
Yeah.
either. Like, my blacklist books exists not because I hate these people or something. It's simply sometimes people are not a good match.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's just personality mismatch, and this is true. Like, I've seen them work. Now, I actually, about this one particular person, no, but
Yes.
they pissed everyone with whom they worked, but
Yeah.
sometimes it is true. And I actually, as a director, I mean, truth to say, I feel it sometimes when I interview people. I feel that with someone, I know we're gonna go.
Yep.
And there are other people that are, you know, complicated and difficult for me to understand on an emotional level. So the trickiest moment comes when someone with whom you just, because of the stars, you match,
Yeah.
that they don't have as well enough craft as someone who looks more complicated, tough, and, you know, to work with. Because then you kind of have to compromise, and it's a very tough choice, and there is no right or wrong. Sometimes it depends on the project.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could think of, you know, I'll go with this person because of the personality. I know they're not on the same level as the rest of my head of departments, but we're going to coach them. We're going to help them. Like, we're going to lift them up, you know. Sometimes you go, well, honestly, as much as I like this person, chatting with them, and I want to work with them, they need to get a little bit more experience. And I would work with someone who is more complicated for me to understand, and I'll just try to find the same language. And sometimes it results in great collaborations. I do have a story of the person with whom I would never imagine working, and, you know, now we're nearly best friends, and creatively, just, you know, I admire their talent so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.